Our old friend, Ezra Jack Keats, the famous author and illustrator, wrote and illustrated books like Peter's Chair,
Like down.
Snowy Day, Whistle for Willie. He wrote other books that we haven't read yet. Like there's one that's called Goggles. We read Pet Show. There's many more, but he only drew one wordless picture book, and I have it. And it's a beautiful wordless picture book. It's called Clementina's Cactus. I thought it would be perfect since we are learning about plants. A cactus is a plant, and cacti don't need very much water to grow. And some cacti even bloom flowers. Not all of them.
Oh.
Sometimes. Yeah, instead of saying cactuses, we say cacti. So this is Clementina's cactus, and you're going to find out what Clementina looks like in a minute. This is written and illustrated by Ezra Jack Keats. He wrote the words and he drew the pictures. Here's Clementina's cactus title page, and you can see her house in this picture. She lives in the desert.
What's the desert?
The desert is a place with lots of dry land and sand and hot and not much plants.
Does it snow?
Not very often. All right. Time to listen. One lonely cactus sat in the hot summer sun, trying to conserve its water. Lydia, its pokies sticking out.
Okay.
Cacti have pokies. They poke you if you touch them. You gotta be careful.
Right inside with it. What?
Clementina and her papa were walking by when Clementina saw the cactus
That's a big.
and pulled on her papa's arm and said, I want to go see that cactus. Come on, Papa, let's go see that cactus. We're going to find out. So Clementina and her papa went and looked at the cactus. Clementina bowed over and looked real close with her looking eyes, but she didn't touch it yet. Even Papa bent over with hands on his knees. It was an interesting looking cactus.
Why the girl no down? Let's go with the nets.
Clementina squatted down with her legs to get a closer look. And by then, Papa was ready to keep walking. He said,
Papa,
come on, Clementina, let's hop along. But Clementina stayed in front of that cactus, looking at it.
Maybe he just red.
She was just about to touch it. And Papa put his hand over his mouth as if to say, Omar, because he knew if she got poked with a cactus prickly, she might cry. Yeah. I don't think Clementina knows cactus pricklies are pokey. Finally, Papa swooped in, picked up Clementina, And they continued their walk before she could prickle her finger with the cactus prickly. Papa put her on his shoulder as they started to walk home, and he noticed that in the distance, storm clouds were forming. He said, "It might rain. We better get inside, Clementina."
Big enough for that big bite.
The big guy, Papa, it is big enough. By the time they got into the house and took their shoes off and swept out the dust, the lightning was flashing
Uh-oh.
and rain was coming down. But Clementina and Papa were safe in their house. They had their fire cooking stove, pots and pans, and a roof over their head. So they decided to watch the storm. And outside, the storm patted rain on the ground.
It's like blue.
And do you know who got what got to drink the rain? The cactus that Clementina was so interested in.
I'm thinking to drink the water.
Well, the rain comes down and it goes into the ground. Remember what part of the plant drinks in the water and the nutrient, the roots. Yeah, cactus has roots and it drinks in the water. It wasn't very long and the storm had passed. There were some puddles on the ground, and in the sky was a beautiful rainbow. We've had rainbows. It stretched across Livy and Prince, the entire sky. That night, Papa read Clementina a book from his rocking chair as she sat and listened, holding her dolly. The storm had passed by. They had eaten their dinner, and it was almost time for bed. That night, the cactus stayed out in the warm desert weather under the moon and the stars. Are you tired? And it just kind of sat there all night. And Clementina hung up her bonnet. A bonnet is what you wear on your head to protect your hair. This was Clementina's bonnet, and it protected her face, kind of like a hat. And she hung up her dolly and she got into bed and looked out her window and wondered what that cactus is doing. That sure was an interesting plant.
What's it be? What would it be?
The next morning, Clementina was up with the sun. She wanted to go see. She put on her clothes and her bonnet and said, "Papa, let's go see the cactus." So Clementina headed out the door and Papa followed her, walking. Everything was dry now after yesterday's thunderstorm. And do you know what the cactus had on it? Clementina got to the cactus and it had bloomed flowers, beautiful yellowish, orangish flowers. She stopped before she got to it and said, "Whoa, that's great and beautiful." It's kind of bananas. Yeah, it's beautiful. It bloomed flowers. It used the water from the to grow a little bit more and bloom flowers. And it made Clementina so happy. She had a grin from ear to ear. Papa picked her up, swung her, and said, "Your cactus bloomed its flowers, Clementina. We'll have to come back each day and check in on it. I think we'll call it Clementina's cactus."
What?
And that is the end of Clementina's Cactus, written and illustrated by Ezra Jack Keats, read to you by Mr. Bean to his group of awesomers.